hey, this eye is this, and yeah, if you're looking at a black screen, pretty much this is just another me just talking video mainly because, well, there's really not that much to talk about, and it's been a slow couple of months, I guess. And of course, the whole Adobe PC thing is behind me now. But anyways, I'm hoping to do a, I guess, tutorial video on how to make those tags for like Team Fortress 2 and other Valve-like games that are on Steam. Which, yeah, Steam is also owned by Valve. On your Mac without using Photoshop or any sort of crossover program, because I know there's a Windows version, but you have to be hooked into the .NET. And yeah, that and there's not really much else to say other than I got hit by a massive snowstorm and didn't really take any power out. And of course, I did get a massive headache, almost threw me to the ground. But I'm fine, no problems. I mean, but yeah, and I disabled a lot of the activities on my I guess YouTube page, because when you look at that YouTube front page, it has that whole all activity or recommendations and subscriptions. Um, I didn't realize at the time, but all my activity was being put under the all activity area, and I since took that, and I found out how to do it. It's you just click onto your account, and then from there you just hit activity sharing, and I clicked off everything except for favoriting videos. I recommend everybody do this because it's bullshit. It basically will put everything and every comment and every sub channel you sub to onto your activity center and share it with everybody else. And YouTube apparently put that as the default setting. Fuck YouTube. Seriously. Yeah. And of course, at the time, my brother had brought over a friend who basically got on my computer and yes, start wandering around YouTube channels. Next time, I'm not sharing my computer with anybody. But then again, my older brother is an idiot. And of course, um, I guess I was just searching around through videos, and I kind of accidentally hit one by Helsink 920, I guess, and of course he was talking about his last video, which I saw, which was funny as hell. But anyways, his reaction video to Kick Astria from that guy with the glasses.com. I don't know. I like those guys. That guy with the glasses.com, because they're pretty funny. And the reason why I watch them is that, well, they review crap and shitty movies and shitty games and pretty much are damn hilarious about it. Just like Angry Video Game Nerd. But, anyways, I guess in the comment, which caught my eye, was that he was wondering why the movie The Spirit was not liked by very many people. And I guess the one guy I watched a lot of on that guy with the glass.com best described it, Lucario, who reviews a bunch of comic books, because, I was once a comic book reader, until Joe Quesada came in and fucked everything up. Well, Joe Quesada and Dan Didio. Joe Quesada for being an asshole, and Dan Didio for just being a complete fucking idiot. Um, but anyways, and I tried to tell him there's a lot of commonality between Wing Commander and the Wing Commander movie and uh, the Spirit. And the thing is that most people don't know is that the Wing Commander, just in case if you didn't know, the Wing Commander movie was directed and written by the same guy who actually created the entire franchise. I mean, he created the franchise and did the entire franchise from the ground up. And he got the chance to direct and write the movie, and it was a complete fucking disaster and had nothing to do with the movie. In fact, most people who watch the movie and knows the Wing Commander games, I actually didn't know that much until I actually talked to somebody who was a big fan of it. But he basically told me detail by detail and he kept wondering if the movie was done by somebody who didn't know what they were fucking doing and didn't know what to do with the franchise. No, it was done by the same guy who actually created the franchise. And this was a guy who knew the whole franchise from the ground up, and yet he just drilled out something that had nothing to do with it. But anyways, the same thing went on to the Spirit, and as you know, Frank Miller, who also writes a bunch of comics, he wrote some of the best comic books. Uh, his run on Daredevil is critically acclaimed, and he did the Dark Knight Returns comic, which is highly recommended, and I actually read most of it and it was pretty good. And yet, and of course, his Sin City was good too and highly acclaimed from what I understand. And I actually liked the movie because it did follow the comics pretty closely, except for some small details. I mean, and Frank Miller was one of the directors, Robert Minkus being the other, and guest director was Quentin Tarantino. But, anyways, they made Frank Miller do the movie. Now, the funny thing was that William Eisner, I think I got his name right. Well, he's long since dead, but before he died, he was good friends with Frank Miller, and Frank Miller and him would trade stories and stuff. And basically, Frank Miller knew the Spirit movie better than anybody. And I mean, basically, I meant was that he knew the Spirit comic books better than anybody out there. And not only that, um, when the Spirit movie was being made, uh, Frank Miller was doing the comic books. And yet, when he made the movie, it had nothing to do with the comics. Nothing. Well, except maybe one or two things, but seriously, how can a guy, well, two of them, who know their franchises, one, the Wing Commander series, was there during its creation and helped make it into the popular game that it was, and then come out with a movie that is completely oblivious to anything, to his own franchise, and then Frank Miller, who knew the original guy who created it before he died, and then start working on the current comic books, and then come out with a movie that had nothing to do with the Spirit. Not even remotely anywhere possible. I mean, seriously, it boggles the mind. It's like, uh, I mean, as an example, like if the guy who created the Lord of the Rings series decided to, I mean, was I guess technically somehow still alive, which is an incredibly long shot, anyways, because I know how old the man would be, but and he'd say, "I'm going to go make a movie on Lord of the Rings series instead of Hugh Jackman," and then he goes up there and makes something that has nothing to do with it, but entails it all with the Lord of the Rings, and all it is just one big mishmash of people just shooting at each other with guns, and you just stand there like, "Didn't you create the series?" And that's pretty much what it was like with that whole Spirit, and why a lot of people were pretty upset. I mean, Frank, you knew the series, you knew the Spirits. In fact, you were working on it when you were making the movie. You were working on the comic books. You knew the continuity of the comic books. And yet you fucked it all up and came up with something that had nothing to do with the comic. But then again, I would also say the same thing about the director and writer of the Wing Commander series. And of course, putting gravity in the depths of space. How the fuck was that humanly possible? Seriously. But, anyways. But then he started saying, like, something about bringing up his personal opinion. And it's like, no, dude, you asked the question why it was bad. That's why it was bad. I mean, now you're just, I don't know, just adding personal opinion. I mean, that's a completely different option. But, anyways, that's all I really have for today. Hopefully, later on, I'll have my other videos up. And to the people who continued listening to this all the way until the end, wow.